God won't let you break. I want you to let that truth sink deep into your spirit tonight. Because I know there are some of you sitting here carrying weight. So if you wonder how your heart is still beating under it, you've been through storms that should have drowned you. You've been through fires that should have burned you down to ashes. You've cried tears in silence that no one even knows about. You've smiled in public while your soul was screaming in private. You've whispered to yourself, I can't take another step. And yet here you are. You're still standing. You're still breathing. You're still showing up. That itself is proof that God won't let you break. Life has a way of trying to convince us otherwise. Pain comes and whispers that it will last forever. Disappointment comes and tells us nothing will ever get better. Betrayal cuts so deep you start to question if there's anything left inside of you worth protecting. But I want you to remember this tonight: pain is not the end. Disappointment is not your final chapter. Betrayal is not the definition of your story. There is something inside of you that is unshakable, unbreakable, untouchable. That something is the strength God placed within you before you were even formed. That is why you haven't broken yet. That is why you keep getting back up. That is why, no matter what comes against you, something rises in you that says, not today, not like this, not the end. I've seen people go through tragedies that would make others collapse and never recover. I've watched people lose everything, yet they refuse to lose themselves. I've seen men and women who have buried their loved ones, who have stood at the edge of their own despair, who have been stripped of money, security, stability, and still they wake up the next morning. Still they whisper a prayer. Still they take another step forward. That is the miracle of resilience. That is the evidence of divine protection. Because let's be honest, you shouldn't even be here right now based on what you've gone through, but you are. Because God won't let you break. Understand something. Being unbroken doesn't mean being untouched. It doesn't mean you won't feel pain. It doesn't mean you won't cry. It doesn't mean you won't fall on your knees from exhaustion. It means that even in all of that, you will not be destroyed. You might bend, but you will not snap. You might stumble, but you will not be erased. You might feel shattered in pieces, but even those pieces are still you, still alive, still capable of being put back together into something stronger. Being unbroken is not about being perfect. It's about being preserved. Preserved for something greater. Preserved for a future you can't even see yet. Preserved because God's hand is holding you even when you don't feel it. When you look back on your life, there are moments you thought would be the end. The heartbreak that ripped your soul apart. The failure that made you believe you'd never recover. The moment the doctor gave you news that made your knees buckle. The betrayal that left you gasping for air. In those moments you thought, this is it. This is the one that breaks me. But look at you now. Somehow, some way you made it through. It didn't kill you. It didn't erase you. It didn't define you. In fact, it became the very thing that reshaped you, that carved out new strength in you, that revealed layers of resilience you didn't even know were there. You thought it was going to destroy you, but God turned it into a chapter of survival, and survival is proof that you are stronger than you realized. Some of you need to hear this clearly tonight. You are not fragile. Life tried to convince you that you are, but you're not. You are not as breakable as you think. You are not made of glass. You are made of spirit, of fire, of steel forged in suffering. The world might look at you and only see scars, but those scars are proof you didn't break. They are evidence that you were wounded, but you healed. They are reminders that you went through something that should have destroyed you, but here you stand anyway. You are not fragile. You are living proof of endurance. And maybe right now you feel like you're at the edge. You're saying, I hear your words, but you don't know what I'm carrying. You don't know the weight on my chest. You don't know the nights I lay awake begging for relief. And you're right. I don't know your story in detail, but I know the author of your story. And if you are still here, if you are still alive, if there is still breath in your lungs, then your story isn't finished. You might be in the middle of your breaking point, but the middle is not the end. God hasn't let you break yet, and He's not going to start now. You are being stretched, but you are not being destroyed. You are being tested, but you are not being abandoned. You are being shaken, but you are not being shattered. That's the promise. There's a strength that only shows up when life corners you. You don't find it when everything is easy. You don't discover it when everything is calm. You find it when the walls are closing in, when the light is dim, when your options seem gone. That's when something inside you rises and says, I will not give in. That's when faith comes alive. That's when resilience reveals itself. That's when you realize you are carried by something greater than your own strength. Because if you had to rely only on yourself, you would have been gone a long time ago. But you are carried, you are protected, you are sustained. That's why you're still standing. Think of all the people who told you that you'd never make it. Think of all the voices, including your own, that whispered you're not enough. Think of every time you believed the lie that you couldn't go further. And then think about how far you've already come. You've walked through fire and didn't get consumed. You've been through floods and didn't drown. You've been to hell and back and still found a way to smile. You have fought invisible battles no one will ever know about, and you've won them silently. You didn't break, you refused to break, and that refusal is why your story is still unfolding Don't misunderstand me. Strength is not about never falling. Strength is about getting back up again. Strength is not about never being hurt. Strength is about healing and moving forward with scars as your crown. Strength is not about pretending everything is okay. Strength is about facing the darkness and still choosing to walk toward the light. You are stronger than you've given yourself credit for. You keep saying, I'm about to break. But the truth is, you've been saying that for years, and yet you never did. You keep going. You keep fighting. You keep surviving. That is not weakness. That is evidence of divine resilience. God won't let you break because your purpose is too great. There are people depending on you, even if you don't realize it. There are lives you will touch, hearts you will inspire, futures you will impact. Your story is not just about you. It's about everyone connected to you. And because of that, you cannot break. You may bend, you may cry, you may scream, but you will not be destroyed. You will walk out of this storm, and when you do, you will carry with you wisdom, compassion, strength, and fire that you couldn't have gotten any other way. You are not breaking, you are becoming. You are not ending, you are evolving. You are not destroyed, you are rebuilt stronger than ever before. So when you feel like you're at your breaking point, remember this: breaking is not in your destiny. Breaking is not in your DNA. Breaking is not the end of your story. You were built to last, built to endure, built to overcome. You were created with strength you don't even fully understand yet. And no matter how heavy the burden, no matter how sharp the pain, no matter how dark the night, you are still here. And if you're still here, then the promise stands. God won't let you break. Pain doesn't define you. It refines you. The first time you feel pain that shakes your very soul, you think it has the power to write your entire story. You think that heartbreak will forever label you as broken. You think that failure will permanently brand you as a loser. You think that betrayal will mark you as unworthy of trust. Pain feels so heavy, so consuming, that it tricks you into believing it has the authority to define who you are. But it doesn't. Pain is not the author of your story. It's only one of the editors. It can cross things out. It can make you rewrite some pages. It can change your tone. But it cannot define your character. Pain has never been about definition. It's always been about refinement. Refinement is the process of taking something raw, something unpolished, something rough, and burning, shaping, and sharpening it into something stronger, more valuable, and more pure. When gold is mined, it doesn't come out shining. It comes out mixed with dirt and impurities. It has to be placed in fire, melted down, stripped of what doesn't belong, until only the true essence remains. That's what pain does to you. It doesn't arrive to tell you who you are. It arrives to reveal who you've always been. It burns away the illusions, the lies, the false identities you've carried, and leaves behind the strength, the truth, the resilience that was always there, but hidden beneath the surface. When you look at your life, some of your most defining qualities didn't come from easy seasons. They came from the fires you thought would consume you. You didn't learn strength from comfort. You learned it from pain. You didn't learn patience from everything going your way. You learned it from waiting in the wilderness when nothing seemed to move. You didn't learn courage when the path was smooth. You learned it when you were trembling, but took another step anyway. Pain refined you. It didn't stamp you with labels of weakness. It stripped you of illusions and sharpened the edges of who you are. That's why people look at you now and see a depth in your eyes, a wisdom in your words, a steadiness in your presence, because pain did its work. If pain could define you, you would still be stuck in the identity of your last wound. You would still walk around with the name tag of failure or unworthy or broken. But look at you. You've already moved past experiences you once thought would bury you. You've already outgrown labels that once felt glued to your skin. That shows you pain never had the power to define you. What it had was the power to shape you, to mature you, to refine your character until you could stand taller, walk wiser, and love deeper. You are not defined by what hurt you. You are refined by what grew out of it. Think of every scar on your body and on your heart. A scar is not a definition of weakness. It is proof of healing. The cut healed, the wound closed, the skin became tougher. That is what refinement looks like. You carry scars not as brands of defeat, but as evidence that you survived something you thought you wouldn't. Each scar whispers, you went through fire, but you didn't burn. You went through pain, but you didn't break. And with every scar, your story grows stronger. Scars are the marks of refinement, not definition. When you face pain, you have two choices. You can let it define you, allow it to tell you who you are, shrink you down, chain you to bitterness and fear, or you can let it refine you, allow it to teach you, sharpen you, carve out the strength that was sleeping inside you. The same fire that can burn down a house can also purify gold. The difference is in how it is used. Your pain has the same dual potential. You can either let it consume you or let it cleanse you. The power lies in what you choose to believe about it. Refinement means the person you were before the pain is not the same person you are after. You walked in one way, you walked out another. And that transformation is not weakness, it is growth. It's like the seed that has to break apart in the soil before it can sprout into a tree. From the outside, it looks like destruction, but from the inside, it's creation. Pain may have broken apart pieces of you, but only so new roots could grow. What you thought was the end was actually the beginning of a deeper, stronger version of yourself. When you lose someone you love, it feels like the definition of your life will forever be grief. But slowly, painfully, that loss refines into someone who loves more intentionally, who values moments more deeply, who walks with more compassion toward others who grieve. When you fail at something you poured your soul into, you think failure defines you. But in time, that failure refines you into someone wiser, humbler, more prepared for the next opportunity. When you are betrayed, you think betrayal will define you as foolish, but in time, it refines you into someone discerning, someone who respects themselves enough to set boundaries, someone who knows the value of true loyalty. Pain is the great refiner because it forces you to confront yourself. In comfort, you can drift asleep in illusions. In pain, you are awakened to truth. You see who you are, who your friends are, what matters, what doesn't. Pain removes the masks, yours and others. It teaches you clarity that ease never could. That clarity is refinement. And let's be real, refinement hurts. The fire is hot, the process is harsh, the stripping is uncomfortable. But that doesn't mean it's destroying you. It means it's preparing you. It means you are being molded into someone capable of carrying more, someone who won't crack under the next pressure, someone who can withstand storms that used to terrify you. That's the secret. Pain is not evidence of weakness. It's evidence of preparation. Refinement is God's way of saying, I'm making you ready for more. Look at the most inspiring people in history, the ones whose words and lives still echo long after they're gone. None of them were defined by their pain. They were refined by it. Their struggles gave birth to their wisdom. Their suffering carved out their courage. Their losses birthed their empathy. If pain had defined them, their names would have been forgotten. But because they let it refine them, their stories became testimonies that inspire generations. The same is true for you. One day, someone will look at your story, someone will listen to your journey, and they will see not a person broken by pain, but a person forged by it. They will find hope in your scars, strength in your resilience, light in your survival. They will not see pain as your definition. They will see refinement as your legacy. Every time you get back up after life knocks you down, refinement is happening. Every time you forgive when bitterness feels easier, refinement is happening. Every time you try again after failure, refinement is happening. Every time you carry yourself with dignity in the middle of chaos, refinement is happening. Every time you choose faith over fear, refinement is happening. Step by step, day by day, pain is not defining you. It's chiseling you, molding you, sharpening you into the strongest version of yourself. Pain doesn't define you. It refines you. It takes what was raw and turns it into something radiant. It takes what was ordinary and turns it into something extraordinary. It takes what was fragile and turns it into something unbreakable. And even though you don't always see it while you're in it, when you look back, you'll realize the very seasons you thought would destroy you were the same seasons that built you. You are not the sum of your pain. You are the masterpiece that emerges from it. You are carried by more than your own strength. There are moments in life when you look back and ask yourself, how did I survive that? How did I make it through? You think about the nights you cried yourself to sleep, the mornings when you didn't even want to get out of bed, the days when everything inside you screamed to give up, and yet you didn't. You kept moving. You kept breathing. You kept showing up, even if you were crawling. And the truth is, that wasn't just you. That was something greater holding you, lifting you, carrying you when you couldn't carry yourself. You think it was your willpower, but deep down, you know it was more than that. Because your willpower runs out, your strength fails, your body weakens, your mind falters, but somehow you still kept going. That is proof you are carried by more than your own strength. There is a reason why some of the hardest storms of your life didn't drown you. There is a reason why the deepest valleys didn't bury you. There is a reason why, even when you felt broken beyond repair, you still found a way to rise again. It's because there is a strength beyond your own that shows up in your weakest moments. You can call it God. You can call it faith. You can call it divine providence. But whatever you call it, you cannot deny it's real. It's the unseen hand that steadied you when everything around you was shaking. It's the quiet voice that whispered, "One more step." When your mind was screaming, "Stop." It's the light that somehow pierced through your darkest night and guided you forward. That's what carried you. Think about the times when you were on the verge of collapse, and out of nowhere, peace washed over you. Think about the days when you had nothing left, and somehow the exact person you needed, the exact encouragement you needed, or the exact opportunity you needed showed up. That's not coincidence. That's not random. That's proof that you are carried. Because if it were only about your own power, you would have given up a long time ago. If it were only about your own strength, you wouldn't have survived the battles that tried to take you out. Something beyond you, something greater than you, made sure you didn't fall apart completely. You are not standing where you are today just because you fought hard. Yes, you fought. Yes, you endured. Yes, you pushed yourself. But there were times you didn't even have the fight in you anymore, and yet you were still preserved. That is because you were never meant to do this life alone. There has always been something beyond your own strength holding you up. Like a child learning to walk and wobbling and stumbling, but a parent's hand is steadying them the entire time. That's you. You thought you were walking alone, but a greater hand was holding you the entire time. The danger is when you forget this truth. When you start to think it's all about you, all about your effort, all about your ability, you carry weight you were never meant to carry. You burn out, you collapse under pressure, you exhaust yourself. But when you remember that you are carried, you find peace even in chaos. You find hope even in despair. You realize you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be strong every single day. You don't have to hold it all together because you are not the only one doing the holding. That's why when people look at you and say, "How are you still standing after all that?" you can only shake your head. Because the truth is, you don't even know sometimes. You don't have an explanation. You can't give them a formula. You just know that you should have fallen apart, but you didn't. You should have quit, but you didn't. You should have been destroyed, but you weren't. And the only reason is that you were carried by something far greater than your own strength. And think about it. Every time you hit rock bottom, something inside you whispered, "This isn't the end." Where did that come from? That wasn't just your own mind. That was something greater, planting resilience in you when you had none left. Every time you thought you had nothing, some unexpected grace showed up. A person, a word, a sign, an opportunity. That wasn't random chance. That was the ever chance that your life is protected, that you are being carried, that your story is still unfolding because your purpose isn't finished yet. You see, human strength has limits. No matter how disciplined, how strong, how determined you are, you will hit moments when you break down. But divine strength has no limits. It fills in the gap when your own energy runs dry. It holds you together when your world is falling apart. It fights battles for you when you don't even realize there's a fappening. That is why you can keep going even when logic says you shouldn't be able to. That is why you've overcome things people didn't think you would survive. You are carried by more than your own strength in the silent moments when no one else sees your tears. You are carried by more than your own strength when you stand at a grave, when you sit in a hospital room, when you lose the job, when you face the betrayal, when you stare at an uncertain future. You're carried not just in the obvious victories, but in the unseen endurance, in the quiet survival, in the small daily choices to keep going. Every time you think you're doing it all alone, look closer. Something greater has been moving beneath the surface, making a way, steadying your steps, protecting your heart. And the beauty of it is this: you don't have to be perfect to be carried. You don't have to always have faith. You don't have to always be strong. You don't have to always know what to do. Even in your doubt, even in your weakness, even in your confusion, you are still carried because it was never about your perfection. It was always about a love and strength greater than you, holding you together when you were falling apart. When you finally grasp this truth, it changes how you walk through life. You stop trying to control everything. You stop trying to prove your worth through endless striving. You stop letting fear paralyze you because you know you're not walking alone. You start living with more courage, more peace, more faith, because you know even if you stumble, even if you collapse, you will be lifted again. You are carried, and that is why you will never be destroyed. So the next time you wonder how you're going to make it, remember, you don't have to rely only on yourself. The next time you feel like you're about to break, remember you are being held together by more than your own strength. The next time someone asks you how you're still standing, you can tell them the truth. It's not just you. It's the strength beyond you, the hand that never lets go, the unseen power that refuses to let you break. You are carried, and that is why you're still here. The middle of the storm is never the end of the story. Life has a way of convincing us otherwise. When the rain is pounding against our windows, when the wind feels too strong, and when the waves of hardship keep crashing one after another. In those moments, it feels final, it feels like the end, it feels like the storm has the last word. But storms are deceivers. They shout louder than the truth. They paint a picture of permanence, when in reality, they are only passing seasons. What feels like a forever night is only a temporary chapter. The middle of the storm may be the hardest place to stand, but it is never the conclusion of the journey. It is the place where strength is forged, where character is shaped, where faith is tested, and where resilience is discovered. Think about any great story you've ever read or lived. The climax, the crisis, the tension, it always comes before the resolution. That moment when the hero is on the ground, beaten, weary, doubting whether they can rise again, that is never the ending. It is the place where transformation begins. It is the middle. And the middle, as difficult and painful as it is, carries a purpose that the ending cannot exist without. Without the storm, the calm afterward would not mean as much. Without the valley, the mountain peak would not feel as victorious. Without the chaos, peace would not taste as sweet. The middle of the storm is a proving ground, not a graveyard. But when you're in the storm, it's hard to see it that way. It's hard to see beyond the darkness when you're still drenched in the rain. You think, this is it. This is where it ends for me. I can't take any more. You replay failures in your mind. You replay losses. You replay disappointments. And you convince yourself the storm has swallowed you whole. Yet storms have always had an expiration date. They can rage, they can roar, they can batter everything in their path, but they cannot last forever. Every storm in nature eventually passes, and the same is true for the storms of life. They are brutal, but they are temporary. The storm is often loudest right before it breaks. The winds seem strongest just before they begin to calm. The rain pours hardest before it begins to fade. That's why in the middle, you feel like you're suffocating under its weight. But hold on, because the middle isn't the end. The story doesn't stop where the pain begins. The pages keep turning, and though the middle is messy, confusing, and full of uncertainty, the ending is still being written. What looks like destruction today could be the foundation of tomorrow's breakthrough. Think of the seed planted deep in the soil. To the eye, it looks like it's buried, forgotten, surrounded by dirt and darkness. But in reality, it is preparing for life. The soil is not a coffin, it is a womb. And in the same way, the storm you are in is not your burial, it is your birthplace for something greater. You are being developed in the chaos. You are being shaped in the winds. You are being strengthened in the rain. If you judged the seed while it was still underground, you would think its story was over. But if you wait, if you endure, if you let time reveal the truth, you will see that what looked like an ending was only the beginning of growth. History is filled with stories of people who thought the storm was the end, but later realized it was the turning point. Great leaders, inventors, creators, and survivors all faced storms that seemed impossible to outlast. Some faced rejection after rejection, failure after failure, loss after loss, but they kept moving through the middle, and eventually the storm gave way to a new season. If they had given up in the middle, their story would have ended too soon. But because they endured, their endings became testaments of hope, perseverance, and triumph. The danger of the middle is believing it defines your destiny. The storm clouds make you forget the sun is still above them. You think because you can't see light, it's gone. You think because the winds are strong, they'll never stop. You think because you're tired now, you'll never find strength again. But storms don't erase the sun. They only hide it for a moment. And your hardships don't erase your purpose. They only prepare you for it. What feels like the end is only the middle. The storm can strip things away, but sometimes what it strips away, what was holding you back, it removes crutches you depended on. It shakes loose attachments that weren't meant for your future. It breaks down illusions so you can see truth clearly. In the middle, you mourn the loss. You cry over what's gone. You ache over what you thought would last forever. But often, when the storm is over, you realize it left you with exactly what you needed and removed what was never meant to stay. What you thought was destruction was actually redirection. The middle of the storm also teaches you who you really are. Anyone can smile when the sun is shining. Anyone can feel strong when the skies are clear. But when the winds blow and the rain falls and the ground shakes beneath you, that's when your true self is revealed. That's when you discover courage you didn't know you had. That's when you find faith that goes deeper than feelings. That's when you learn resilience is not about avoiding pain, but walking through it and refusing to be defined by it. The middle of the storm strips away the false and forces you to stand in authenticity. It's also where you discover who stands with you. Fair weather friends scatter when the clouds roll in, but those who remain by your side when everything is falling apart, those are the ones who truly love you. The storm reveals relationships. It reveals priorities. It reveals what matters most. And though it hurts to watch some people walk away, it is better to know who is truly for you than to keep illusions alive. The storm is painful, but it clarifies. And yet, even in the middle, there are glimpses of hope if you pay attention. A break in the clouds, a moment of peace, a word of encouragement, a small victory. These are reminders that the storm is not eternal. They are signs that the ending is on its way. The problem is we often fix our eyes only on the storm and miss the signals of hope. But if you choose to look for them, you will see that even in the hardest seasons, life whispers, "This isn't over." Think of your own past storms. Think of times you thought you wouldn't make it, times you thought you couldn't endure one more day, and yet you did. You are here now. That is proof that the middle is survivable, that the end holds something more, that your story didn't stop where the pain began. If the storm you thought would destroy you didn't, then why believe this one will? If you've made it through before, you can make it through again. The middle of the storm feels endless, but it's a bridge, not a destination. It's a passage, not a permanent place. The rain doesn't fall forever. The winds don't blow forever. The chaos doesn't last forever. Your story continues beyond this moment. And one day, when the sky is clear, you'll look back and realize the storm didn't end you. It grew you. It taught you. It refined you. It strengthened you. It gave you wisdom, perspective, resilience, and gratitude. The middle is not the end, because your life has chapters still unwritten. Your purpose has not yet been fulfilled. Your story is not defined by one season of struggle, no matter how fierce. The storm is a page, not the entire book. And when you come out on the other side, you will see clearly what you could not see in the middle, that you were never abandoned, that you were stronger than you believed, that the storm was only part of the journey, not the end of it.